Hi, and welcome back to another video. This is going to be my 2025 notebook system video, where I'm going to share what planners and journals I plan to use for 2025. I tend to usually wait to share my thoughts until after the year has started, since I'm usually still figuring out what my system is going to be in November and December. However, I feel like this year I really figured out what my system works for me early on. While I do love spending time in all of my notebooks, I really took the time to think about whether that time spent was serving me and if I actually reached for my notebooks both during the year and after the year is over. If I am going to be dedicating time to my notebooks, I want to make sure I'm also making time for other things in my life. And the issue I realized was that some of these notebooks just weren't working for me, and they weren't also notebooks I was often reaching after the year was over. So let's start with the biggest change I made for 2025. If you've been watching my videos this year, you will already know this, but I stopped journaling in my daily journal, which I used in a Pocket Leuchtturm 1917 notebook. And I have begun journaling digitally. Ultimately, I came to this decision after just a few months of just really not being happy with the notebook due to all the time it took to fill out. Since I tended to journal a lot, I couldn't write too fast since my hand would cramp up. And I was realizing, like, if I only have one notebook to fill out, it wouldn't be an issue. But I was already spending a lot of time in my other notebooks as well, and it just didn't seem worth it. In addition, while I did occasionally read through some of these previous entries, I really didn't do it enough to justify journaling in a physical notebook, which just led me to decide to just journal digitally in a Word document. Since I type a lot faster than I can write, this allows me to get the benefit of journaling daily, but it also means that now I can journal wherever I have a digital device, which is really convenient for when I do any traveling. And as always, if I really do want to have a physical format of my journaling, I can always print out the pages and bind it together in a book. Now, this probably isn't much of a surprise, but I did pick up another Hobonichi Weeks for my planner for 2025. While there were a few other cover options that I did, like, ultimately, my favorite was still the Black Paper series that I used for 2024. I like how, honestly, it didn't really get very dirty. I used a clear cover, but I didn't always use it, and I feel like it's really the back that got a little bit more dirt. Plus, just really simple. I liked it. It went with a lot of different color options, and same with actual, like, other covers. I did use this handwrite one from Hobonichi. I think it's called the N-O-T-T-E, the Note. So because this is the main cover I have, I like how it still really goes well with this. Since I tend to only really use the note pages in the back of the Hobonichi Weeks for few additional lists, I went with the standard edition again. I still have yet to find a reason to pick up the Mega, and I don't really think I would consider it until I use every single page in a standard edition, which has yet to happen. I know a lot of people who use the Mega version tend to do, like, bullet journaling in the back, and that's just not my type of planning method that I like. I have begun to sort of put in some little post-its in the back and plan essentially what I plan to use certain pages for, with some sticky notes and flags. I do plan to move into it for December, since I'm really ready for a fresh start in my planner. There have definitely been some blank pages in my 2024 Hobonichi Weeks, which really isn't a bad thing. But I've used these for the past 2 months to really reassess how much I use the Hobonichi Weeks currently and the changes I need to make for 2025 in order to make this planner work for me and my goals. And essentially what I really like about the Hobonichi Weeks, it's pretty simple. So this is like the monthly layout. I like how there's still a lot of space here to write some notes. And then, let's see, okay, here's a weekly layout. It's a lot of space. I'm a weekly planner, so I like how it's a 2-page layout. I can put all my like day-specific events and tasks, and then here I can put any extra notes. And I can really customize it to suit me and my current needs. But I also do like that this is still a small planner, so it's still pretty compact and it doesn't take too long to fill out. One big change I am making for my 2025 Hobonichi Weeks is during 2024, I kept my school tasks for my master's degree separate. And for 2025, I'm going to be adding school back into my personal planner. So I kept all of my master's degree tasks and note in an A6 day free notebook in 2024. I do have a video up on my YouTube setting it up. And the reason I wanted to switch my school back into my personal planner is just to see if it helps my productivity. Found using 2 planners at once really sometimes was difficult, and I sometimes found myself overwhelmed, and sometimes I just wouldn't reach for my Hobonichi Weeks, or sometimes even either of them. So I think trying to consolidate my planners for 2025 hopefully will really help me just feel more lived in to my planner. Feel like 2024, I just, while I did use it and I did enjoy it, I don't feel as connected to it in the sense that I just don't feel like I spent as much time as I should have in this. Now moving on to my reading logs. So as somebody who thoroughly enjoys reading and would rather spend my free time reading rather than watching a TV or movie, I read a lot. This means I need a good amount of pages to document all the books I read, whether it's a physical book, an ebook, audiobook, or graphic novel. For about 2 years now, I've been using these Good Impressions, I think you can read that, inserts. While I do think they are a little bit expensive compared to other inserts on the market, I do really think their quality speaks for itself. And even like these, I find that the wear and tear for how much I use this and pull this out without any cover is really worth it. So, plus you can customize it. I think that's one of my favorite part is Good Impressions offer a lot of customization for inserts. But for my reading logs, I use, so it's standard size with white GSM Tomura River paper with square grid. I really like the standard size since it fits really nice in these Traveler's Notebook archive binders that have these like metal, I don't know, like sticks that essentially hold the notebooks in. I also have a video on my my reading notebooks that I can put in the description below as well. But essentially I like how those archive binders can essentially just keep all of my reading logs for multiple years in one place. On the inside, essentially I've been logging 2 books per page, but I think for next year I'd like to fit 3, just because I tend to not need that much space. I thought I originally would be writing a lot more, but honestly the grid is pretty small, and I also tend to write small with a Pilot Vanishing Point fountain pen. So I think I'm gonna try to do 3 per page. But the stuff that I do keep, essentially book title, author, date, read, pages, a little synopsis, a star rating, and my thoughts. And this is essentially just a way for me to remember what I read. I tend to remember all of my favorite reads, but it's sometimes those books that maybe I didn't like as much that I often are the ones that I forget. So it's really cool to be able to look back and see what I read, what were my thoughts, and also when I read them, since sometimes I do like to go and reread books. So it's interesting to see what were my initial thoughts versus now reading it again. So let's see, next we have my 5-year Techo. So this is my first year using one, and I really enjoyed the process. Essentially, let me find one that I haven't written yet. So each page is dedicated for a day in the year. On the left side we have each, essentially the page divided for a space for each year, and then we have a blank page. So the way I use it is here I write a little highlight about the day, just something that I essentially want to remember the day by. I don't really care about my routine as much as just little small moments that I'll be happy to remember. Even sometimes I'll write about maybe a song that I'm really listening to over a lot, or a book I read, or something I ate, or something I watched, something really small. And then on this other side I'm using is to pick a journal prompt, and I am just essentially answering that journal prompt for the year in a few sentences, so that I can then, the following year, in 2025, essentially read what I previously wrote and kind of either maybe change my response, reflect on my response, and just have this really cool way of showing how over the year my response to the same question changes. I thought this was a nice way to use this page, since because of these quotes, the grid ends. Otherwise, I think I could have maybe just kept writing across the page into here, but I thought this was a great way to still utilize the page, especially since some days aren't just as interesting as others. They may just be a little bit more mundane, so sometimes I don't have as much to say in this little part. But overall, I'm really excited to be able to read through this back. I'm even having fun reading entries from the start of the year and what I wrote. And I do have all of my questions on my Instagram. I know I still have a few months to post on there, since I got a little bit behind with the journal prompt questions. But I'll put also my Instagram down in the description below if you're interested in seeing what all the journal prompts that I have for this are. The last thing is actually a new addition this year. So I've been searching for a while now for a booklet with a few note pages, but I really never found anything that was exactly what I wanted. But I stumbled upon these Sterling Ink monthly booklets this year, and I decided to pick one up. This is the N2 size, which is actually the Hobonichi Week size, which I feel it's a very good fit. And it's very thin, which is specifically what I wanted. And my intention is to essentially use this as a pre-planning tool for all my goals, since sometimes I can get very overwhelmed if I have too much information in my Hobonichi Weeks. So this is essentially a way for me to still have that information on hand, but not within my planner until I'm ready for it. And they have essentially these quarterly pages for each quarter, and then these monthly pages, and then a few note pages, which is exactly what I wanted. Plus, if I'm using this cover, it can fit into this pocket, which is a way for me to have it on hand. And it fits really nicely. I plan to share a little bit more about how I use this once I have it set up for 2025, but right now it's just a little bit of sticky notes as I am finalizing my goals. And I think this would also, with how thin it is, as long as like you don't use anything other than pen, I think even with like a clear cover, you could probably like slip this maybe in the back and it might be able to fit, as long as you don't mind too much the back cover being a little bit bent, if that makes sense. But I'm really excited. It is I believe it's white Tomioka paper, so it is a little bit different than the Hobonichi paper that's a little bit more cream colored, but I honestly really don't mind. But I do like how it is Tomioka paper, so that it's really thin, but you still have the amount of pages that you need to do any planning. Overall, I'm really excited about my selections for my 2025 notebook system, and I feel really hopeful that these will end up working really well for me for both my personal needs and my goals for the year.